actually attending a conference for the Association for Accounting Marketing, and one of my coworkers had met someone from Introhive and was like, you really need to stop by that booth. And this was several years ago. And so I did, and I was a little bit blown away with what Introhive could do, and I thought it almost seemed a little bit too good to be true. But I was hooked in right then and there, and it took a little while to convince the firm, right, to feel the same way that we did. But yeah, it was a game changer, and you could see it up front.
You started to hear how peers were using it, and back then it really was just the minimal stuff. I think now over the years I've learned way more of what Introhive can do, and it was beyond what I was excited about from the very beginning. So,
you know, when I think about data, right, and I'm in the new business world, and I think about the data that we have and what it lacks, right? That was the number one thing I think that made me very interested in Introhive is what it could do for what we currently have. When we think about all the business combinations that firms have over the years and the bringing together of that data and then what's lacking, right? You try so hard to bring in clean data, and it's a challenge I think that we all face. And what Introhive could do to make that problem better, that was the first thing I thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And then when you get into Introhive and you understand the power of what it can do for, the pre-meeting digest and the post-meeting, and you don't even have to go into CRM to log what it is you just talked with a client about and things like that. It snowballs a little bit. Like, I was blown away just from the data piece. That was enough for me. And then you learn all these other things it can do, and very powerful.
When we were talking to the firm about it, obviously the data augmentation and cleansing the data was huge. But we also looked at it as we just got Salesforce, and it was a great tool for adoption, getting people into the system, and just another method. We have people that use Salesforce all day long, and then we have folks that will never step foot in it, but they'll read the pre-meeting digest and use the post. So it's just a way to get people to understand how it all comes together. Along with that, I do find all the reporting that you have available, everything that we've learned today, to be exceptionally exciting. We're looking at it from like three perspectives. Like, how could the associates use it, like, just to understand relationships, how to develop relationships? I love looking at it, understanding what are those successful clients that we have, how many people do they have introduced, what's the frequency of contact that they have, to say, can we replicate that? And then if you have two clients that are doing equally well, one isn't as satisfied as the other, you can see who are they talking with at the firm, who is their relationship team versus who's the relationship team on the one that maybe isn't doing as well, and to mix it up, to do different things to grow the business based on the people that you have on the account and who's working with whom.
We had our early adopters with Introhive who jumped right in, and they were really impressed. And they, like your influencers within your organization who they love new technology, they want to understand what it can do for them, and then they influence others. But on the back end of that, just this week, right, we took a look at how much data had been updated, how many contacts were we missing in our CRM system that we didn't have before. And we were very much blown away with the number of contacts that Introhive has added to our database that we simply did not have before. A little scary, but very impactful.
I would say the same thing, because we have, in our combination strategy, most of the firms that we've combined with have been smaller, maybe 10 million and under firms, and they don't have their own CRM systems. It's all in their heads or in their Outlook. So we had a lot of firms that it's been years that we haven't had full data. So when looking at especially a region that's newer, our Florida region, it was really impactful to see how many clients or how much contact information that we added from those firms, because me doing it manually prior to that time was really hard. So it's great to be able to see that the data, at least the basic data, is there that we don't have to worry about. And then the other win, I think, is retiring associates and principals as they retire, really to get all of that information out of their brain and into the system, and at least know where we have relationships that we need to do more work on before those principals retire. So I think while we haven't seen a lot of that just yet, I think that's going to be very impactful going forward. So I had read an article in Harvard Business Review, and it basically talked about, if you want to find your next greatest leaders of the firm, look at who they're connected to. And they were just talking about looking at Outlook and seeing who's tapped the most. So I think it's really cool, because we can see those next gen leaders and say, this person is tapped by 50% of the firm. They must be doing something that they should rise to the top. So I think there are some sleepers that we'll also be able to cover in the data and kind of show just how much influence they have on clients and how much influence they have on other team members that they're working with. So just interesting use cases that, we didn't pitch to the firm when we, wanted to get it into the firm, but interesting things from today that I think we can use.
Well, our industry is pretty open with sharing, right? We do a pretty nice job. We're not so proprietary that, we're doing this, but don't tell our competitors, right? Everybody's really great about it. So I think coming together in an environment like this, like a specialized, first of all, we felt special coming, right? But it's really great, I think, to see people outside of our industry and how they're utilizing Introhive as well, or similar industries, but not exactly the same, right? So that's really interesting to see. But the one thing I am most excited about, I took a lot of notes, the one thing I'm most excited about after hearing from my peers today is that top 50 idea. Top 50 clients, do a deep dive in those relationships, internal and external, through Introhive, and learn everything you can, make that data dance. So I can't wait to get back and do that and launch it.
Mine's very similar. I'm just thinking about it from how can I use the data to help other associates grow their careers? How can I use the data to help our advisors understand what clients are the most successful and really how much work it takes? So is there a very successful relationship? I don't think it requires conversing with them every day. There's got to be a balance. There's probably some trends that we can look at in our top 200 clients to say you need to be touching them at least this many times a year, is what we're seeing in the trend in our highest client satisfaction scores. And then also looking at those that are like the lowest scores to say, what are we doing? What communication do we have with them? What advisors and how much and how often are they communicating? So I was kind of the same thing where I'd like to take a deep dive into the top and also the lowest to understand it, and then match that against our client satisfaction scores and say, how can we utilize this data to increase those scores? I think it's just the willingness to work with us, that there is so much that I learned today that you can glean from the data that I'm really excited about moving forward. And even the conversation that I had with the woman who was sitting at our table, Tracy, she was awesome. She's like, I will absolutely connect with you, email me, whatever you need. I can talk to your IT team. So the whole process of the onboarding was fantastic. The security, the depths that you go to make sure that the data is secure and make sure that our IT department felt comfortable with that was awesome. So I do think a lot of it is just the people that we've worked with so far at Introhive have been awesome.
I agree. I think that the willingness to be open-minded at Introhive. Anytime we have issues, questions, ideas, it's never a no answer. It's always oh yeah, we've already done that. Let us show you how. Or that's a great idea. We're going to work on that. So the open-mindedness and the willing to grow and work right alongside of us, that's really been exciting. But I too was blown away when we first introduced Introhive and had to get through IT security, which isn't always easy. And IT security came back to us and gave such a glowing review of Introhive. I've never experienced that before. There've always been some kind of issues or some kind of problem. They're like, no, absolutely.
Nothing. And they were nervous about it. They were like, what? It does what? It's like, no way, So we thought for sure they were going to come back and be like, no, this isn't.
I think they used the word impressed even. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And they came back with no issues. Not a one. So it was great.